All right, all right. So this will be a... Everything's working? Yeah, I got Mike, I got chat. All right, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, so this will just be a live QA, I think, but there is one thing I kind of want to do. So let's bring in an image, texture, import, and just in case, I'll move this down here. Recording, body horror, phase 4. So I'm going to load in this star here. And let's see if we can't recreate this. If I remember how to make a star. I think, okay, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see. There's 5, so that means I want a cylinder. So let's drag out a cylinder here. So this is a primitive. I haven't, I just went into my palette, grabbed a cylinder in here. And let's do, so Z will take this, what is this? This is, come on, Mike. This is Lightbox. No, this is Spotlight. So you can see Shift Z toggles Spotlight on and off, and then Z puts it into this widget mode, and then out of widget mode so I can sculpt. So if I do Shift Z, that'll turn it off temporarily. And let's go in here. So I said 5, right? So I think I want to double that. So we're going to go down here to initialize, because this is a primitive. We can go through and change this. So let's do H divide of 10, I think. That seemed right. And then if I take, and let's also, okay, let's do Shift Z to bring this back. Let's rotate this. I'm going to hit W, and I'm going to hold down Shift and rotate this. Maybe not Shift. Maybe we'll just rotate it straight up. And we'll put that in the middle. That looks about right. Let's scale this up. Or, I mean, we don't even need to scale it up. We can just hit Z and then put this in widget mode. And then we can scale this, scale this image down if we'd like. Sorry, my brain's I would say a little gone, but my brain's a lot gone. There we go. So we have this. And now that I'm thinking about it, we could have used this circle 3D maybe, but I think the cylinder will work fine. So I think this will work. So let's go in here and we'll say make polymesh tool. Oh, hold on. I need to change them. Wacom, tablet properties. Give me just a second here. Oops. Mapping. I guess you can see what I'm doing here. So I need a map to a specific area here. So I'm going to say portion. And we're going to say define screen area. I need to re-click here and here. There we go. Say OK. Close that down. Bring ZBrush back. There we go. Now I can reach the top of my menu. Let's see here. Okay, so we hit make polymesh 3D. So this is now sculptable. It's not just a primitive mess. I'm going to hold down Control Shift and Alt and get rid of all those polygons in the back, and we'll say delete hidden. We'll snap to the front, hit Shift Z, and if for some reason I would need to come back to this exact camera view, let's go ahead and go in here to Movie, Timeline, Show. We'll put a little dot in there, and then we'll say Movie, Timeline, Show, turn that off. So if I ever have to move this, I can use my arrow keys to snap this back. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go into Z Modeler Brush, B, Z, M. Hover over an edge. We're going to insert a single edge loop, and we'll put an edge loop right about here. Yeah, and then we're going to hover over an edge, hold down space bar. We're going to collapse an edge. There we go. Okay. Oops, collapse the other way. There we go. There. Okay, so we got our star, and you know, I guess we can keep collapsing these down as well. Oops. Now let's do a little bit of text. I'm not sure what font that is, but I guess we can eyeball it. So if we want, I think, it's been a while since I've done this. Let's go in here to Z plugin, and there should be an SVG text 3D and vector shapes area. And sorry if you can, I'm on my laptop today, so it seems to be really chugging along over here with the fan, but I think it'll be fine. Okay, so what are we doing here? We're in text, so we're going to go ahead and say, you know what, I'm not Elizabeth Sparkle. I'm going to use my face on this one. So we're going to do new text, we'll call it. We'll do all caps. my name, hit enter. Let's go ahead and we're going to hide that star temporarily. And actually, this might... We need a sans serif font. So all the I, you can see, has those little things out there. Oh, hey, chat. Louise and the Wild Noodlers. How's it going? Let's see if we can't find... So this does say it's sans. Let's see. You know what we could do? This is a serif font. Okay, there we go. I think this will work. Does this have a bold? This is the same thing. Same thing. You know, we can always change these as well. So let's do this Noto Sans here. That's fine. Now, there's a couple different options in here. You're going to see it's not very well evenly spaced. If we turn off adaptive, that'll evenly space out our geometry a little bit. That'll help clean up, maybe. Resolution is at 3. If we drop that down to 1, it's a little low, right? So 3 starts getting that curve back in there. If we do maybe 5, is that too much, too little? I think 3 is a nice, solid number. Spacing seems okay. We can always change the spacing, obviously. It's just geometry, right? And we don't need to do a bevel. I think we can work with this. So if we're good with this, I think we're good. I don't think we need to do anything else. So right now, I have a cylinder top. So let's go ahead and turn that eyeball back on. Let's hit Shift-Z real quick. There it is. So I want to turn on my floor. I like to work. How do I like to work? I guess if we're looking down, well, you know what? If I'm going to be using, well, I guess I should talk about what we're doing. Body horror reference. We're going to be doing something like this. So if I take a character creator head, and, you know, if it's going to be my name, I could just make it my own. We could have it crawl up, and then we can just kind of do this goopy stuff out here, and this could be my scan data head on here that we could animate. Then I probably... I'm gonna do a little movie magic here. I'm gonna say Z forward because the default base body and character creator. Actually, let me pull up my usual suspects here. Let's see, YouTube and ArtStation, and I think that's enough. So, for example, if I have a new ZBrush 2025 What's New section in the new ZBrush What's New playlist, so you can check that out if you want. I also just recorded a bunch of iPad stuff this weekend, or not this weekend, but yesterday. So I'll be editing that and plinking through. And then also, if we go over here, here's the ZBrush What's New section, and then here's the Reallusion Character Creator section. This is what I'm kind of talking about, is if I'm going to kind of put my face in this puddle of goop, and animate it around, I can do it kind of like I did with this statue, where we go through and its default position is just Z forward, Y up, right? So he's like a standing human. So we'll go ahead and do, that. So if you want to check any of this stuff out, feel free. Let's go all. There you go. And speaking of, if you saw the last live stream, enter. This is what we kind of created here. Let's see. So we sent this over, and then we kind of sculpted this phase 2 of our Elizabeth Sue. We haven't done the duo yet, but this is where it ended up, our last project that we did on our last live stream. So again, check that out if you feel like that's something you would want to lay eyes on. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the iPad stuff, I've got like the first 3 videos edited, and then I'll just be kind of plinking away at those on nights and weekends. So keep an eye on my channel. I'll have that stuff coming out. It's not going to be any different than stuff that already exists. Pablo Munoz Gomez and the ZBrush guys, Rodolfo and Ian, they've already got great stuff out there. So don't expect too much, but I'll have my own. When in transpose mode, why should I not press reset all brushes button? I guess you could. If your brushes are behaving weird, reset all is easy, you know, obviously if your current brush is acting weird, go ahead and just hit this one, but reset all. I do that quite a lot, not quite a lot, but every once in a while, if things are not working as I expect them to, that'll be my first thing, is just go ahead and reset all my brushes. And then if that's not working, I'll just shut down ZBrush, restart it. But that's pretty rare. But I don't know, if if your transpose is acting really weird and it doesn't seem to be going away by resetting, let me know what the problem is, and or describe the problem to me, and I can see if I can't help out a little bit. So we'll go ahead and move this star so we're Z forward. Long story short, so when I put my face in there, it'll be in an upright position. I don't have to do anything weird with the animation stuff later. And that looks like we need to reset this there. And let's just go ahead. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say reset this, go to unmask mesh center to the middle of the object, and then I'm just going to set this to home. So it's just kind of sitting in the middle of my scene. And now we're going to alt tap to select our text here, and I'm going to scale this down and way down. And now we're going to go through and match. Now I have, it looks like my star is a little off kilter here, so we'll just kind of nudge this back. And if I want to make sure we're mirrored across the x-axis, which I do, and it looks like we are not, let's go ahead and again go to Unmatch Mesh Center. Let's do a quick Geometry Modify Topology Mirror and Weld across the x-axis. Let me show you where that is. Geometry, Modify Topology, Mirror and Weld across the x-axis. That way I know if I turn on X symmetry, we are perfectly mirrored, and if I'm doing any Z modeler stuff, it's not going to yell at me. So that means I need to reset my camera because I move stuff around. No big deal. Just go in here to Movie, Timeline, Show, drag this dot out of there to delete it, and then put another dot in there. Now, if I move this around, and then I can snap it back. So let's Alt Tap here. Let's move this up. Look at that. Good enough, I think. So let's hit Shift Z. Let's see if we can clean this text up a little bit and not make it a nightmare. So we have multiple polygroups here. What my gut instinct is, if I want to rebuild this geometry, I might try ZRemesher to get nice, even geometry. But I think this geometry is actually pretty decent. I just might go through and delete some of these triangles. But what you could do is you might try this. So you might say Control Shift Tap, so you just have these pink polygroups. You can say Geometry Modify Topology, not Mirror and Weld, delete hidden, and then you could maybe try like a ZRemesher. I'll show you where that is. Geometry, ZRemesher. We could say maybe like same, adapt the size down to 0 for nice even quads. Hit ZRemesh, and that kind of works, kind of doesn't. It probably needs more. We could try double, or we could try like turning off double and changing the target polygon count to like 5,000, give you something like this, and then you could say half and just maybe keep hitting half. So that's one way you could clean this up, but it's going to run into some issues, so that might be more trouble than it's worth. The long way to do this, not the fun way. Well, here's another thing you could try. Let's do, there we go. Sorry about that. Actually, let's change the startup material so you can see it a little better. Let's go in here to Skin Shader 4. Another thing you can do is Control Z back to where we had the extra extruded. So sometimes when you're ZRemeshing, it's helpful. Let's go in here to Polygroups, Group by Normals, and let's make sure, yeah, so all the major edges get their own polygroup. So sometimes you can go in here and say, okay, ZRemesher, let me show you. Again, I'm using my custom menu here. If you want to know more about how to create custom menus, go into my ZBrush What's New playlist and do a Control F for, I think I say this every single stream, customize brushes, and then video 42, customize your interface and menus. So here's a bunch of intro to ZBrush stuff if you need to kind of refresh yourself. ZBrush always shuts down if I do. Have you tried? Really? Okay. While in transposing, why should I not press reset all brushes? You know what? We'll do it live. Let me see. Now that you've warned me, let me go in here and say, there's a little quick save button up here. It's probably not being captured, but I'm going to hit quick save. You can also hit the 9 button. So we'll hit quick save. So you said transpose mode. So here's Gizmo. If we hit Y, now we got the transpose line. Brush, reset all. I've never actually tried this. Works on my machine. Seemed to be okay. I didn't crash. Might need a restart or maybe submit a ticket. That's an interesting one. Seemed to work. Now, here's the thing is if you want to reset all brushes and transpose mode crashing it, then I would say switch to literally any other brush. Just go to your standard brush and reset all your brushes. It'll reset. It should reset your transpose brushes, which for anybody stopping by, BT should reset all these as well, you know. But if having these selected for some reason is crashing your machine, then literally, you know, select any other brush that's not a transpose brush, and then they'll still get reset if you're resetting all. So we got this. Oh yeah. So here we're going to tell ZRemesher. We'll do it over here. ZRemesher. We want to keep our groups and smooth groups down to 0. We don't need to like soften these transitions. They're already about where we want it. So sometimes that can help, even if you're only going to keep these outer facing and you're just going to delete the other geometry, this can help you. Let's do double keep group ZRemesh. That can kind of help you keep all that stuff going. And actually this is working much better. So I'm glad I brought this up. Let's try half. Hey, ooh, look at that. I think we might have a winner, y'all. Because what I was going to do is go back through there and like manually delete those triangles or see if I can go over here to geometry, edge loop. There's not like a detriangulate in here, is there? I was going to see if there's anything special in there I could use, but I think ZRemesher just pulled through, man. So here's the deal. I want the exact same geometry on the front and the back. I can't guarantee that happened with ZRemesher. So what I'm going to do is Control-Shift-Alt drag over the thickness polygons, geometry modified topology, delete hidden. And now I can kind of update this geometry. And then when I'm done, I'll just extrude back and then we'll have perfect geometry. I'm astounded that did that well. Thank you, ZRemesher. Once again, I'm just going to leave that too. I think that'll work fine. Everything looking good? Yeah. Wow. Everybody, round of applause for ZRemesher. Now, if you want to line this up, let's hit W, hold down Alt, and tap and drag, and that'll set this here, and then we can go through here, and we can like Z-scale this back. Another way you can even geometry out, if we have an example, yeah, like this here, if I want to hold down Control-Alt and just mask those edges, I can also grab my clipping brush, Control-Shift-Clip Curve, and I think we can just clip all of these back down. Now, this one might do a little weird thing. So in this case, what we might need to do is just eyeball this. So if you go through here, let's say slide by brush radius with our Z modeler brush. We can just slide along there. Slide, slide. This isn't that necessary. I'm just trying to think of interesting things to tell you all while I'm doing weird ZBrush stuff. And now I'm going to get us a drink because it is early and my voice is already starting to go. Okay. Oh yeah, this will be a better one. So again, if I hold down Control Alt, that'll unmask just this line here, and now we can use Clip Curve. I'm going to match this line, and boop, that'll straighten that up for me. Again, not totally necessary, but just in case that's useful to you. Now, I do want to go ahead. Let me see, Shift Z. Move this back into place. You know what we're gonna do? I need to make this bigger because my old man eyes, they don't see as good as they used to. Let's go ahead and match this again, and one more time. And actually, I have a shortcut for this in my custom menu, so I can just go to Show, put a new dot in there, and then turn Show off. We already talked about where that is. Movie Timeline Show. In fact, let's nudge this up just a bit. Sorry, this is the boring part of content creation. Lining up your reference. Now it looks like these letters might be a little thicker. I can go through manually and thicken those up. Like I didn't have like a bold font version. So let's talk about how we can maybe do that. Can I do that with just these verts? I think it might be easier once we have thickness. So let's hit Control W on our keyboard, and that'll make that all one polygroup. And then again, Z modeler brush, hover over face this time. We're gonna extrude, say all polygons. And now when we pull back, that will, now we could pull forward and it'll be fine, but if I pull back, I can show you something. So if we pull back and that reverses our normals, just go down to the very bottom of your tool menu. Well, not the very bottom, but close to it. Display properties, flip. There we go. And now we have, again, that perfect geometry on the front and the back. Now, if we want to bold this font, this isn't going to work, but here's something. You could go here And on this blue polygon, hold down space bar, extrude all polygons, and then as you're extruding, you'd hold down shift, and you could pull along, and it will, you know, thicken the blue ones. But now, you know, it's going to start bulging in here. So let me think. I don't want to have to necessarily manually go through. What you could also do, I mean, you could go through here and do your, you know, group by normals, and then you could say, you know, extrude polygroup all, and then you just hold down shift and manually go through here and just do this. You could also, if you didn't want to mess with your polygroups, you could go in here and say extrude, and you could also use QMesh if you wanted to. QMesh flat island. There we go. And then that'll look at everything that's flat along here, and then you can just kind of move that stuff around. Or you can say Control Alt, grab these ones, hit W, go to Unmatched Mesh Center, and scale in like this. World's your oyster. I'm going to try something real quick. Let's do this. Control Shift, select rectangle. Get rid of this one back here. Let me just do yeah, there's nothing to inflate. X, Y, and Z. I want to do a Y, Z. Something's tickling my brain about how I could... Yeah, there is no normals to follow. You know what I could do? Let's try this. Let's say extrude polygroup all and just extrude out. So that'll give me a little bit of a thicker letter, right? And now if I go through here and we say collapse polyloop, we could go through and collapse. That could do this. Now, here's something to consider. I might get better smoothing if I go through here and just extrude an edge ring around here, because now I have an edge ring built in, or an edge, like a kind of a control loop built in. Something to consider, because really I'm going to do, whenever I go to smooth this thing, all I'm really going to do is going to be something rudimentary, which is geometry. Geometry, dynamic. We're going to turn on dynamic here. Let's just, I kind of like these polygroups, so what I'm going to do is just do a crease tolerance at 45, and that'll go through and crease my edges, like so. And now it'll give me a smooth preview of what this would look like if I was to subdivide this 3 times. So if I do Shift D, that turns dynamic off. If I do D, it turns it on. And now I can mess around with, like, okay, crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3, give it a slight fall off, maybe crease level of 3, smooth subdiv of 4. That'll work. If I did want to put control loops in here, where I wanted to go like, hey, I want to insert a single edge loop and put something in here to kind of hold that edge or hold that corner a little better. This gets a little squirrely. We could also just do like a crease PG, and then I can come in here and we could say, you know what, let's crease edge loop partial on here, and we could kind of hold those corners a little better. We could maybe, yeah, so we could manually go through here. If we do Shift D, again, that turns it off, and we could just manually go through on all the corners and just kind of hold these corners. I don't know that this is totally necessary. I'm probably doing a little overkill, but again, just in the name of ZBrush instructional video streaming, hey, I don't know, this might come in handy for you, so put this in your back pocket. So we'll go through here in all the corners here. Now when we extruded, it kind of did something a little messy there. Do I want to ignore that, or do I want to I guess we can fix it. So let's go fix that real quick. I think collapsing will probably be our best bet. So if we go through here, I'm going to hold down Control Alt and grab those verts and hit W. I don't know where, okay, there's my gizmo here. So if you can't see Unmatched Mesh Center, that little button on there, you can always go to Masking. In here, you could even set a hotkey for this if you want. There is an Unmatched Mesh Center button in there. That way you don't got to go hunting for it. And we can just move these apart and move these up, and then scale them out again. Yeah, that'll work. Can I maybe scale those out some more, or is it just not? Oh. We may need to go in here. Okay, so if you want to make your draw size really small for some reason, you can temporarily go in here to preferences, yoink, draw, dynamic brush scale. Let's put this to like 0.1. So now my brush is smaller. Let's say 0.01. 0.02 is the smallest we can go. So now if I go in here and like move this apart, it's still not going to let me. We are working at a very, very small scale. Let's see if we can just grab this one here. And then grab this one here. I was thinking maybe we could like move, and then there is an option in your brush where you can say move depth. You can turn on infinite depth. We could put this in the Z direction. I mean, I guess I could do it now. And then when we turn on infinite depth in the Z, and then it'll move everything straight back. But we had to kind of scooch those out a little bit more. Okay. Yeah, so we're holding that. That's all creased. That's all creased. We'll just keep moving on along. Oops. To the front here. O doesn't have any corners. Here. Crease. Bing, bing. Bing, bing. I wonder if there's a faster way to do this. Shout out in the comments if you know of a faster way to just crease my partial corner edges. Well, it looks like we got a lot to fix. You know what? I can... do I want to skip fixing that? Because we're going to be doing some Boolean operations, I have a feeling, to make our star work, possibly. So I kind of want to make this clean if I can, to help out ZRemesher. Or maybe we want to be lazy and not like have all the geometry perfect for like sub-D modeling. Maybe we want to just use like Dynamesh and just crank that resolution up. Because at the end of the day, what really matters is it looks okay. It doesn't matter if it's perfectly built unless you're handing it off to somebody who needs perfectly built geometry to do their job, right? So this might be overkill. But I'm trying to like future-proof, so if we get to the middle of the stream and you're like, I wish I had spent a couple minutes just doing that, it would have saved me hours later. Sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes not. Especially when you're streaming and it's like, boy, could you stream the most boring thing in the history of streaming, Pav? Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. So here and here. Question: extrude mesh border might also work. Oh, is there an extrude mesh border? Oh yeah, you're talking about. Let me see here. Yeah, just taking that. Yeah, kind of like what we have here. I think that is our best bet. And again, if we wanted to go through here, and like I said, just like once you've done that, just collapse this poly loop back. Or yeah, collapse it out. That way now it's thicker and you're good to go. And I might, I wonder if I went through here and did that here. That would make this easier to clean up too. I'm still going back and forth whether I really want that control loop in there or not. I don't know. Because again, it is making things a little messy in here. It's not that hard to fix. Just again, unmesh mesh masking, unmesh mesh center, and then just go in here and scale, and then just move stuff around here. So it's not terrible. It's just tedious. And that, you know what? I think my biography title is going to be terrible. Not terrible, just tedious. The Michael Pavlovich story of my life doing work in computer graphics. That seems to be 50% of my job. Let's see. It's easy for to post my characters, but I do find the rigging process very tedious. It's just the process itself a bit tricky. When you're rigging, I would say in general, rigging. If you were rigging for real, that to me that process is a little bit tedious. I want to say, let's go back here. And here's the thing too. If you're in ZBrush, this is actually, I might get a kick out of this one. So this one is if you're starting with the CC based topology and you want to do facial expression stuff. But if you just want to pose out your ZBrush stuff and you're using Transpose Master, or you just want to send, I got this model, I just want to pose it. This is probably the series. I think this will be a helpful series. Now, as far as rigging goes, and by rigging I mean, putting dots into place so that bones can get created, and then those bones are going to be weighted to your geometry so it'll move around. That shouldn't be terrible, at least using this process, because really all you will end up doing is when you send it over, just for anybody stopping by doesn't know, you just send over your mesh and then you put these dots where the bones are going to go, and it gives you these little guides about where they should be placed, and then it goes through and creates the skeleton for you, and then it auto weights it for you, which generally speaking, what I find most tedious is not necessarily like putting the bones where they need to go, but like if I start moving stuff around and it's like, oh, now I got to go in and paint weights, that's really the more tedious thing for me. But the skeleton creation, I mean, this is about as painless as it gets, as long as you're doing a humanoid. Now, if you're doing fantastical creatures and stuff, this obviously isn't going to work. And then you got to put in a lot of extra manual labor. But for me, the tedious process is painting weights. That's more tedious. Oh, cool, excellent. Hopefully, I wish I had a trick. I wish I had a trick for cleaning this stuff up. This is kind of, I don't know. I'm tempted to just leave this stuff for now, because this is going to be really boring to watch me go in here and just move verts around. So we want to make sure these are straight, kind of match here. One thing we could do is if we do like say fix one side, we could pop this out. So by that I mean Control Shift drag over this, say Geometry Modify Topology. Oh wait, sorry, Subtool Split Hidden. That's under the Split menu. We'll say W, move to Unmatched Mesh Center, do a Geometry Modify Topology Mirror and Weld across the X-axis. Oops. Before we do that, right now we're across the world axis, right? So we need to turn on Symmetry, turn off Dynamic. So now we have local symmetry. Not symmetry, but LSym. Do we have a, wait, transform? I just noticed symmetry I have. Okay, I've just completely removed that button. So activate symmetry just by tapping X on my keyboard. This toggles, I'm sorry, I'm used to the iPad version, which has global symmetry sitting out here. So there's LSym on, dynamic off, and now it's looking at the bounding box of just this object. Then we can just do a mirror and weld across the X-axis. Or if I need to mirror this temporarily, I can go to deformation, mirror across the X-axis. It's going to throw it out somewhere weird, and then we can just do a mirror and weld across the X. Now I need to fix this midline here first before I do that, but then I would need to mirror that back so it's back in its original position. And then if we go out of solo mode, we could just merge this back down. I have a hotkey set to Control E, but merge is under here. So here's your split hidden, and then here's your merge down under the subtool menu. Like I said, I'm going to not clean that up. We'll see if we can't make some headway now. Okay, what's next? Shift Z. Okay, so we have a, you know what? I think that extrude border works so well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this star, and again, make sure we're in Unmatched Mesh Center here. Let's turn off X Symmetry so we can go to this Unmatched Mesh Center, puts it right in the middle, and then we can tap X to go to X Symmetry again. I'm going to scale this down so we don't have the border included. And now when I go through here, do I want to clean this up? We could try cleaning this up too. So we have X Symmetry on. ZRemesher will give us, let's say, double might not even be enough. I'm going to crank this up to like 2000. Depth size down a bit. ZRemesher. Do I need more geometry in here? If you wanted to like sculpt on this, this might be useful. And we might need to, because there is some nuance to that shape that we want maybe evenly spaced geometry to sculpt on. Why can't decisions be easy? Or we can just Dynamesh. That's my secret weapon. So let's go in here. Let's say extrude polygroup all. Again, if I extrude back, we got to go in here too. And again, I have the right down here is flip in my custom menu here, but we go to display properties, flip again. For some reason, I always extrude back. I never extrude forward. So here we got our name. We got our geometry here. If I want to have this as a separate border, because remember, this is like a rock material, and then this is a metal material. So I'm going to duplicate this star, and we're going to Control-Shift tap the green. So go into solo mode so you can see what I'm doing. Control-Shift tap the green. Control-Shift drag. So we just have that border. Control-Shift tap that green. Geometry Modify Topology, delete hidden. And now extrude polygroup all. And let's hit Shift Z here. So we need to go out just a little bit. So we'll say zoop a little bit. Beautiful. All right. And on this, in this particular instance, I think we can go through here and just hold down Shift. Nah, it starts doing something weird. So in this instance, what you could do is I want to extrude a little more. You just extrude a little more, and then, like I said, hop back in here and say collapse poly loop and just boing, boing, and just do that. So now we have this is nice geometry. Now, I wouldn't ZRemesh something like this. What I would do is go in here and say, if I did need extra geometry, insert multiple edge loops, keep polygroup, and then just go through here and be like, so once you drag up once and it puts all the divisions where you want, then you can just go through and just tap and it'll make the divisions the exact same. So just in case. All right, and on this one too, let's go ahead and do a crease tolerance at 45. That'll crease my major edges, my corners over here, but we still got to go through. In this case, let's do crease. So this is my Z model brush, BZM, crease, edge loop complete, boing, boing, here, 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 and here. So now when I say hit D for dynamic, and it'll say crease level of 2, smooth side div of 3, or something like that, we'll get a nice fall off on that edge. The light will catch that edge a little bit and it'll render a lot nicer. And there will also just be a slight gap between this one too. So if I hit, well, let's see what's going on with this geometry. This is another reason why you might need extra edge loops. And if you try to go in here and say insert multiple edge loops, I mean, it's not terrible. It's not great. Is that from Chernobyl? Let's see. Just tap. Could I get away with this in Sculpt? That's going to be bad. I could manually go through here and for now, what I'm going to do is, this geometry is not great, but I am putting in extra edge loops so I can get that fall off, and then if I need to convert the Dynamesh, at least it'll have the right fall off. So again, I'm just going to go in here and just tap, get that extra geo going, go in here and just run a crease tolerance at 45, and then just hit crease, edge loop complete. This is a tricky one. I wish I had a really awesome answer for this particular geometry conundrum, but I do not. So D for dynamic, again, crease level of 2, smooth side of 3. Also, something to consider. Yeah, this is getting nasty. We could go in here and say, let's do insert single edge loop, put a little control loop in here to kind of hold that shape, but then it gets a little squirrely in here. Something to consider as well. We're doing like dynamic just to get a little bit of fall off. Also, if we just undo all of that, you'll automatically get, if you just take this shape and you just go in here, let's switch to, it's fine. Let's turn off polyframe. If we go in here to our Dynamesh, so geometry, again, this is the easy way out, the easy mode. If we turn on Dynamesh, this is going to replace our geometry with just a bunch of little geometry, right? So if we turn off blur, hit Dynamesh, let's crank that resolution way up. If you ever need to really crank your resolution up, like if you go to 4096 and you're like, I still don't have enough resolution, you can click this little closed circle to an open circle, and that'll give you even more geometry. Oh, I may have overdone it. Hopefully it doesn't crash. Okay, good. Also, this I didn't really overdo it. Like, ZBrush can handle this no problem. I'm on an old laptop right now streaming at the same time, so pray for me that I guess I can close this, that nothing goes bad, because this hardware is not ideal. So this is actually a little too high. So let's we'll undo that, and we'll maybe crank that up just a bit. Here, Dynamesh. There we go. So when we go to Dynamesh this, and then maybe we want to just run like a little polish. So now we have a lot more evenly spaced geometry. We can sculpt in this no problem. And then if we want to go in here and just run like a little deformation, maybe a little deformation polish, just drag that to the right a little bit, you'll automatically get a little fall off built in, right? So something to consider, Now, before I do that, I always like to leave myself an out, right? So let's keep this star nice, and let's do another quick save. This because I scared myself about crashing. Let's duplicate this off. So just in case if I'm Dynameshing and I'm like, oh, I wish I had my original star back, I do. I can just go back to my original star. We'll just turn that eyeball off. All right, we got this, we got this. Okay, there's one more thing we need to make. That little circle thing. Oh, we can do a bas relief. Oh, and we can do the ZBrush logo. It's all coming together. So I just need a circle right there, a little cylinder. Let's append a cylinder here. Let's rotate the cylinder. Hold down Shift, and we'll snap this back, and we'll scale this down. Nice. Now, again, I don't need this extra stuff. We can always add thickness later. So I'll say Control Geometry Modify Topology, delete hidden, and now we got our cylinder. Now this cylinder is not going to be great to sculpt on. Like I said, I always forget about this one. Let's try this. Let's say append. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't think the circles 3D is going to solve our problem either, because that's also this. Delete that. No big deal. Sorry, I'm thinking while I'm just randomly saying words. Let's do this. Let's give ourselves an extrusion. So this I'm going to extrude forward. We'll say crease PG under your geometry crease menu. We'll hit D for dynamic, and we'll say, you know what, dynamic smooth a div of 4. Give us a nice smooth result. We'll say dynamic apply to make that real geometry. And now if we go through here, let's turn on X symmetry. Let's say delete lower. Let's say geometry modify topology mirror and weld across the X. That's fine. I wanted to make sure we're mirrored and welded across the X-axis. So now if I go in here and we'll say ZRemesher half, keep adapt size down to 0, nice even quads, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0. There we go. So that'll be much nicer to sculpt on. You can keep hitting half if you want to. I guess that's fine. So we can say, and again, if for some reason I want to go in here with Z Modeler and say, you know, this is always fun, Q Mesh, polygroup all, you can hold down Alt and Paint, and I want to pull back and have it work perfectly. See how it kind of messes up? That's why I always go in here, Control Shift Tap, Geometry Modify Topology, delete hidden, Z Modeler Brush, Q Mesh, polygroup all, pull it backwards, flip. And now if I go through here and go bloop, hey, look at that. Works great. Not that I'll need to do that, but again, this is all just stuff you can put in your back pocket. You never know when it might come in handy. So Shift Z, stick this back here, and let's take a, I'm going to take a quick closer look. Give me a sec. We are recording. Sorry, I just want to go in here and zoom. Okay, so this does have an outer ring. So what we're going to do is we're going to build in a little ring, and then we're going to do a bas relief of the ZBrush logo, if I can find it. So let's consider this. Let's go in here. So here's a fun thing. I'm going to go to Unmask Mesh Center. We're going to stick this right in our star here. And let's say we want to, let's go into solo mode here. So if I do a uniform scale, it's going to do this, right? If I hold down Control, it'll inflate, but that's not what I want. What I want to do is hold down Alt, and then I can do a axis. I can do a, so you see how it's not getting any thinner or thicker? It's just literally scaling along the X and Z axis while I hold down Alt on the Y. I do that all the time. That's super useful. So what I want to do now is just scale that in just a bit. So we'll say Alt Y. Because, perfect. Or good enough, I should say. We're going to go through here. We'll say Q Mesh polygroup all. We're going to pull out a ring. A little bit more. And this one is safe to go, oops, shoot. Let's hover over an edge, polygroup, polyloop. Just so you know, when I Q mesh this out, it made this polygroup the same as that one. Easy enough to fix. While you're pulling this out, tap Alt, and that'll swap through polygroup, so you won't have that problem. If you did need to, you can always hover over an edge, say polygroup, polyloop, and then you can just, you know, cycle through different polygroups here. So anyway, now we have a ring built around. We make this a little thicker. And then we're going to go in here. We're going to do an, here's the deal. If I go through here and just say extrude polygroup all and just pull this straight up, Number one, it's going to go on the back. So let's do a polygroup here. Let's make that more obvious. There we go. So if I just extrude this one out, I guess it'll look okay if we do like crease PG, dynamic, crease level 2, smooth set of 3. And everybody watching this on YouTube later, go back. You'll see how we did that earlier in the stream. So it'll give us kind of a little bit of a fall off, but if you were to like bake this into a game res model or something, it wouldn't look great. And also there's some nuance to this bevel now that I'm looking at it. It looks like this kind of bubbles out in the middle, and then it's just got a very soft, I don't know. It's like I said, it's got a little nuance in there. So what we could do, two different ways you could go about this. So we could go through here and we could just like slide edge loop complete, and we could say, you know what, let's back that off just a tad, and we'll push this in just a tad just by sliding. That's easy enough, right? But also you could preemptively do that if you needed to do it a little more specifically. You could do an inset polygroup all legacy and then just pull this in, and then you can go through your Q mesh polygroup all and then just hold down shift, and that'll kind of pull along there. That's a little too much, so we'll stick with the original plan. So we'll extrude this. You know what's funny? It almost looks like this one doesn't even have. I like that control loop though. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that top one alone. I'm just gonna slide. I don't know why I'm getting so caught up in nuance. It's not like this is gonna be sent to NASA or anything. Also, you could make this outer ring, just like we did the outer ring of the star, a separate material. You could do that, but I think this looks like all one material. I am slightly concerned that this does look like it bubbles out just a bit. We could try to isolate this and maybe do a... Ooh, let's try this. Let's go to our inflate brush, switch this to a drag rect, go to the middle. Oops. I hate that. I'm going to isolate these two polygroups, go into polygroup auto groups. That's under your polygroup menu. You know where it is. Just in case. Polygroup auto groups. Isolate this again. You know what? Let's also do this. Let's go in here to masking. Mask by our border edge. So now when I drag this out, that border edge won't move, but I will kind of just slightly inflate that middle. Okay, just last. So here's another thing too. If I slightly inflate that middle and I feel like I went too far, I can use this adjust last to kind of go in here and just be like, just a little bit. There we go. So now again, crease PG, dynamic, crease level 2, smooth set of 3 or 4. How are we looking? Is that nice? Look at all that nuance. So now we need to do a bas relief, and that's why I always like to do this too. Just like this star, I'm going to hold down shift, do that bent up arrow to shoot it to the top. I'm going to duplicate this off, shift, bent down arrow, shoot it to the bottom. I'll have this one just available to me if I want to go back to the applied version, because it's always nice to be able to hit like shift D, go through here and just continue making changes, right? Because as soon as I hit, I got dynamic turned on by hitting D. As soon as I hit apply, now I have subdivision history. Now I'm kind of stuck with it, kind of, right? Now I could always go back to subdivision level 1, delete higher, but my verts have moved a little bit. I guess I could have made a cage maybe. There's something about that you could probably use, but anyway, I don't know. I like to always have a version. So now, yeah, I guess we don't really even need to do a bas relief, because if you need to know more information, I keep bringing it up. So just in case you need to know, that was a ZBrush 2020. What's new playlist? 2020. There it is. 2022. Bas relief alpha project. You can go through and you can. Let's just take a look. Because it's kind of cool. You can go through and you can take, that's such an awful model. You could go through and take your model. I don't know what I was thinking. And you could have it apply your geometry. I mean, we're doing exactly what we did here. Was we just made basically a coin shape, and then we did a bas relief, and then we did adjust last. So you know how all this works. So any geometry you have, you can just plop it right in front, and it'll go ahead and create either a mask or apply a bas relief that you can adjust later. So again, this is all stuff you can put in your back pocket there. We'll go ahead and copy this here. Okay. What else do we need to talk about? Okay. The ZBrush logo. I want to say in the alpha, did we used to have one in here? Maybe not. Well, let's go find the... Actually, we could use bas relief. I'll tell you how. ZBrush logo, images. I don't need anything special. I think this one will work. Copy image. No, you know what, we'll do save image as. Now let's throw this right onto... let's be organized. Recording, body horror, phase. Oh, okay, so now, two ways we could do this. Let's go in here to texture, import. We're going to grab that image, and with that texture selected, let's do a invert. Yes. And now I'm going to go over here and we're going to say make alpha. Yes. So far, so good. Let's turn that texture off. Let's turn that alpha off. Let's take our standard brush and clone it off because I don't want to mess with my standard brush. We'll switch this to drag rect. And we just only want to apply it to this geometry in here, right? And we are on subdivision level 5. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough, but we'll see. So now if I turn off X symmetry, and then I just drag rect this off, you're going to see it kind of fades at the edge. We can go down here and say focal shift down to -100, and I'm going to drag the other direction. And this, is that like a little trademark? No, a little bit of an artifact. You know, here's what another thing we do. Have this sitting here. Let's go over here to morph target, store a morph target. That'll come in handy for cleanup. We'll drag this out. This is kind of a little bit of trial and error. It looks like on the other, on my reference, it kind of favors the bottom, so we'll favor the bottom here a little bit. There we go. So we can just kind of drag that out. Again, if we want, we can say adjust last. You could put it in a layer, but I think it's something about here is probably fine. And now we can go to BMG is your morph brush, and then if you need to do a little bit of cleanup, like if you could really just morph this all back. Let's take that Z intensity up to 100. But if we just need to do a little bit of cleanup, we can go in with our morph brush and just morph those back. You know what? Let's hit Control D one more time. We'll switch to our standard brush. Ooh, we are working at a big scale. Oh no, I forgot. We went into preferences, draw. We have dynamic brush scale still set at 0.2. Let's set that back to 1. There we go. Now ZBrush is acting right. So now if we wanted to smooth this out, we could just manually go in here and kind of smooth this if we want to, but I think that's okay. Actually, that might actually be a little much. Just a little touch, right? And then again, before I subdivide, I want to do BMG. Do a little micro cleanup because I am so enthralled with nuance on this for some reason. Control D. There we go. That'll work. Now, another thing we could have done, speaking of bas relief, quick save. Let's do this. Let's go in here to alpha, grab that image, go in here and say make 3D. I feel like we got more options. Let me go in here to alpha menu, make 3D. This is selected. Resolution, double-sided off. I'll keep it on. Make 3D. Not enough resolution. Crank it up. Make 3D. Yeah. I mean, you could still clean this up. If you want to hold down Control Shift, go in here to like clip curve and just kind of clip this back a little bit. Oh. Maybe not. Clip this back a little bit. There we go. Again, it has that little artifacty thing. You'd have to clean that up. I guess you could use like Sculptors Pro maybe. No, Sculptors Pro. Shift to smooth. You can kind of, with Sculptors Pro, you can kind of eat away geometry, so that's kind of nice. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe do like a deformation polish by feature, open circle, tap, 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 tap. You know, kind of clean that up. You could use this as a geometry bas relief type thing, which I'm not saying you should do this, but if you were so inclined, you could maybe append it. So we got our thing here. Yoink. And now, or you could just Dynamesh this together or Boolean it together, I suppose. It gives you a little, instead of dragging an alpha, sometimes it's nice to, you know, have a piece of geo that you can kind of manipulate around and not have to drag rect and cross your fingers. Your mileage may vary. So we have our original cylinder. Yay, I'm glad we do, because we can duplicate this off. Hold down Shift, shoot at the bottom, turn off that eyeball, etc., etc. Let's go ahead and turn off Sculptors Pro. Let's scooch this. Let's actually scale this in. We'll scoot it forward here. So for bas relief to work, we're going to go in here. We're going to say Dynamic Apply. We're going to hit Control D once. And then with this one selected, and in fact, we could even mask this, I believe. So mask this out, invert it. So with this selected and this just sitting in front, I believe if we go in here to Project Bas Relief, we hit that button. We go into solo mode, that'll go ahead and apply it, and that's where we can do our adjust last. So that just literally took that geometry and just boop, pushed it back. I also feel, yeah, there's a bas relief over here in your alpha. So it'll create an alpha of that geometry if you wanted to. Anyway, watch that movie that I linked. Is that better? No, I don't know. That's fine. Anyway, we'll delete that. Again, just put those techniques in your back pocket. You never know when they might come in handy. And turn this off. Now, here's the tricky part I've been avoiding. How to make all this stuff work together. So let's take our coin and scoot it back so it's just kind of sitting in here. We have our text sitting here. All beautiful. Let's do a crease level of 2. Smooth subdiv of 3. Is that too much? No, that's fine. Because if we want, and let's embed this just a tiny bit more. We just want this kind of sitting here. Because if we want the nuance of this star, that's kind of weird. Let's take this. I'm going to Z-scale. I'm going to mask this whole front. Hold down Alt, and I'm just going to Z-scale this so that it's perfectly flat. I'm not sure why it wouldn't be, but it's not. If we want the nuance of like these letters kind of sitting in another medium, like etched into stone, let's say, you would want to Boolean this out. But this is going to be I believe this is going to be way too complex for ZRemesher to handle all this lettering and these really tight corners. So this is where I get, like if I just wanted to take a circle out, I could probably do that for this part. But everything else, it's going to be too much. So this is where we have our original star here. We have our updated, is this our dynamic applied star? No, it's just sitting here. This is where I'm like, okay, let's use our friend Dynamesh, and then let's Boolean. Or do we Boolean first? Let's maybe Boolean first and then Dynamesh. I don't know. Question, can you tell me if it's possible to align loop J's in a circle relative to their common axis, as in Blender or Maya? Align loops in a circle. Oh man, I'm not sure I follow that, and I apologize. My brain ain't quite what it quite used to be. Let's say so we have a circle. We have a common axis, which could be anything, X, Y, or Z. And then we want to align. You know, there is align loop options in here. There's align, edge strip, Bezier curve and stuff. I don't really use this a ton. Oh, you know what? Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. So basically, gosh, have I used this in a while? So you could say align. Let's do this. Let's do group by normals, Control Shift Tab, geometry modified with D hidden. You could say, I want to align an edge strip. So I'm going to take this one, align edge strip, second edge here, and then click and drag. And it will, gosh, what does it do again? Let's also do this. Geometry, edge loop, delete loops. Okay, so if I have, for example, I have this cylinder sitting here, right? We'll turn on double so you can see a little bit better. So if I say I want to align this edge and this edge, you can tap and it will flatten that and straighten it. To your point though, you want to build in, you want to make sure you build in that curvature, right? Yes. So while you're, well, if we did this, like insert single edge loop, basically if it's like, oh, I want to insert an edge loop but have it build in the curvature, you could do insert multiple edge loops, interactive elevation. No, let's see. Sample layer alter. Smooth elevation. Is that a thing? Let's see. That might be it. So now this isn't aligning an edge. This is inserting an edge. So I'm not really answering your question, but I believe insert multiple edge loops, smooth elevation. You can go through here, and it'll add insert an edge that matches the curvature. If you ever wanted to eyeball it, you could say interactive elevation, and then when you put in an edge ring or an edge loop, you could go through and just kind of pull it out. But I want to say this one. So that doesn't answer your question, but just in case somebody was wondering, I believe inserting multiple edge loops and then saying smooth elevation will build in the curvature. But if you already have like insert single edge loop, if you just put an edge loop in here, you know what, we can also do this. Insert multiple edge loops. So I want to put one right in the middle. So we'll say specified elevation of 0. I guess you could do math and figure out the elevation, but so we have a line right down the middle, right, on all of these. And we want to align, so it's in a circle maybe. Gosh, I really don't know. I don't think align would do anything. Align, I mean, it's got a circle here. Align to normal, align to tangent. There might be something in here. You could align with interactive curvature. There's a bunch of stuff in here I don't. This would be like a Joseph Drest or a Paul Gabry question, I think. I don't know. That's a good one. Yes, I get scared too. So I'm a little quick save keeps me from being scared, and then also duplicating my subtools over and over again helps alleviate my stress. Quicker way to deselect selected polygons using Alt in the ZModeler brush. So quicker way to deselect selected polygons. So we have, let's see, let's go back. I'm just trying to make sure I have the right setup to give you an answer, if I have one, which I can't guarantee that. Okay, cool. Sorry, I didn't think I really answered your question, Katana, but hopefully there's something in there that you could maybe explore that might get you where you need to go. Quicker way to, so I have deselect polygons. So you have selected polygons. So when I'm selecting polygons, I'm usually just alt painting to select them. To give them their own temporary group, and then if I want to go in here and say, you know, Q mesh and hold down shift and pull. Now you could select polygons through masking. So you could go through here and say like mask a single poly, and this would be like, okay, I'm going to mask these and then control tab to invert that. I like to do polygroups though. So you have selected, let me see, deselect selected polygons using Alt. So basically if you're using the painting method, so if you're using Alt and painting method, and then you say, oh, I want to deselect these, I don't want to select them anymore, then yeah, you can just Alt paint back over them. However, if you have a poly group, that's still pretty easy to do. What you can do is say, hey, you know what? Say I want to move these, or control tap these so that they're selected. You could also go through here and be like, actually, let's hold down Alt over this pink one, hold it down, and then tap Shift. So let me explain that again. Hold down Alt, touch this pink polygroup, let go of Alt with your pin still held down. That's going to store this polygroup on your pin, and then if you just click and drag, it will paint that polygroup over another polygroup. So that's how you can quickly go through here and be like, oh, I want to paint this polygroup somewhere else. Just hold down Alt, tap Shift, and then you can go over here, and then, no, you have to, I think you have to, has to be a continuous stroke. So tap shift, and this is something I do all the time, but it's kind of it's a feel thing. You'll just get used to being like, okay, alt shift tap, and continue painting, and then alt shift, grab this polygroup, and then continue painting. So that's how I kind of go through and just kind of paint with alt and Z Molder my polygroups. But again, it's kind of hard to explain in words for some reason. Again, it's alt tap, so like I'm painting, right? But let go of alt, and then tap shift. That will inherit that polygroup that you're on, and then just keep your pen held down that whole time, and it will go through and paint that polygroup, if that makes sense. That might not make sense, but give it a shot. Okay, so we got this star, and it's our duplicate of our star, and we're just going to Dynamesh this, but now I'm wondering, do I want to Boolean first or not? And I believe I do want a Boolean. So let's do this. Let's take this star. I'm going to hold down shift and turn off the eyeball. And then we're going to turn on our little circle guy here. Nope. You know what? I'm going to take this circle guy here. We're going to duplicate it off. I'm going to hold down shift and shoot it to the bottom. I'm going to take this star here, shift, shoot it to the bottom. The name, you know what? Let's do the name too. Michael Pavlovich. Duplicate, shift, shoot it to the bottom. I'm going to hold down shift, turn off everything except for the things I want a Boolean, right? So now, if I put the star up above, I'm going to change both of these to subtractive. We're going to go in here to live Boolean, which is under your render Booleans, turn on live Boolean. That will show us the live Boolean. So I'm going to take this cylinder here. We need this to punch. I mean, I guess it's not to punch all the way through the object. And let's make it punch all the way through the object. I'm going to go solo mode, Control Alt, hit W, and just drag this back. Now it punches all the way through. Yeah, let's punch it all the way through. Same thing for the name. Control Alt. Drag this back. Oops. Here. And whenever you do that and you need more control loops in here, again, this is just an opportunity for you to go through here, and you could say, you know, go in here and say insert multiple edge loops, keep polygroup, and go like so, and then you can just go tap, 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 tap all the way down. In a pinch, you could also hold down Control Shift, go in here to slice curve, and then when you go through, you can just slice through all the letters at once. So if you just need to put in a couple control loops here, just to hold those verts a little better, let's do a little more. You could do that all the way through. So now when we hit D for dynamic, yeah. Okay, those punch all the way through. That punches all the way through. We have dynamic turned on. Quick save, because I'm working on my laptop. If I was working on my Threadrippers, I wouldn't have a whole lot of issues with the whole like memory and crashing, but my laptop is old, man. But ZBrush is working like a champ as usual, so we're okay. So we're going to take this, we're going to go down here to Boolean, so subtool Boolean. We're using dynamic while we're doing this, so let's say make Boolean mesh, and that's going to spit out a U mesh into our subtool palette back here. So there's our U mesh here. We'll take a look at it. Not great, right? So if this wasn't so complicated, you could go through here and say, hey, I have polygroups where I need them. I could ZRemesh half with polygroups on, blah, blah, blah. I think this is going to be way too complex for ZRemesher to handle. There's just these tight corners and all these text. Ugh, I wouldn't expect it to do a great job. And it's a tall order, so I'm not blaming ZRemesher on that. So let's go in here and we'll say, I don't want to overdo it, but we'll say 568, blur down, Dynamesh. And we'll all just watch my laptop. Oh, it already did it. You know what? I think we can go a little higher than that 568 then, if it's going to be that performant. I thought it was going to be. I'm trying to get as much resolution as I can without being scared. Okay, here's another thing you can do. There is a Z plugin. Of course, I don't have it. It's on my laptop. I keep forgetting. That's okay. Let's see. Z. I get to show you something. So Max on ZBrush plugins. If you do want to download plugins and install them on your desktop version, click on that, Google that, and then click on this link. So, yes. ZBrush Compositor is cool. We'll download that one. Quick Scaler is cool, but I don't use it. Some of these I don't use. Nano Tile Texture is pretty cool. I don't use it that much, but it's cool. Startup Utility. Panel Loop Presets is cool. Clean Tool Utility is really cool. ZRepeated is cool. IMM Extractor is cool. Matcat Baker. I think you can use the Redshift Baker now. If you want to know more about that. ZBrush 2025. What's new? There is at the very bottom-ish Redshift Baker 360, so you can bake lighting and materials onto your polypaint, which is cool, isn't it? Live Boolean utility. Dynamesh utility is what I was looking for, so we'll download that. And yeah, I think we're good. So basically you can download those, and I'm not going to walk through it because I don't want to restart Z. Well, you know what? I don't want to walk through it because I don't want to restart ZBrush. But if you ever do, just go in here and say plugin. Reinstall ZBrush Compositor. ZBrush installing plugins. Copy link address. That'll walk you through how to install plugins on your desktop. But basically, you could go in here and Z plugin. There's a Dynamesh master you could go through. You know what? Let's do this. Let's do a quick save. I just want to show you. I just gotta. Oops. So we're gonna go to our downloads, and we're gonna do Dynamesh utility. I'm going to move it here. So I'm going to right click this. We're going to say 7-zip, extract a Dynamesh utility. So now we have that unzipped. I guess we can just delete this. So we have a bunch of files in here. Not a bunch, just a couple. Here's the README. Here's the install. We have a Z data and a Z script. So we're going to say Control C. And we've already done a quick save, so let's go ahead and close ZBrush. So we're going to copy this. Or you know what? We can even do X, Control X. We can cut that. We can go in here to our ZBrush, next on ZBrush 2025, Z Startup, Z Plug 64, and there's a Z scripts and Z data in here. So just Control V to paste. So now when we restart ZBrush, and I apologize in advance, my laptop is slow. Restart ZBrush. If you go into your Z plugin, you'll have a Dynamesh utility. And that'll give you a little more leeway. If you're ever like, I can't get more resolution out of my Dynamesh, how do I do it? This will allow you to type in exactly how many polygons you want your Dynamesh to be, and it will get there. It'll get there pretty close, I think. That's the best way to smooth your model after sculpting, just to clear off brush texture and bumps. Smooth brush seems to deform the overall shape. Yes, let me show you that. There's a really good way. There's something called Smooth Alt, which basically, so what you're saying is, let's do this. Let's go in here to our comma key, quick save. I'm going to open up my file, then I'm going to open up another file that'll, I can just show you. Sorry, my laptop's slow, everybody. I'm so embarrassed. Okay, so we're back where we started. Let's go out of edit mode. Control N, just so you see it. Z plugin. Oops. Dynamesh utility is in there now. So for example, let's go in here to a sphere 3D, drag it out, edit, make polymesh 3D. So check this out. This is really important because this will come in handy, I promise. Let's go in here to our move brush, and I'm just going to hold down Alt. We're just going to kind of pull some surface off of here, right? Also, with my smooth brush, I usually go in here to the smooth brush modifiers and set weighted smooth mode to 1, just to smooth stronger. And you'll see when I'm holding down Shift and smoothing, like you said, it's not respecting my volumes. It's just totally melting my mesh, right? So if you just want to do, and also if you're just doing like little brush strokey stuff, so let's do this. Let's say we got a volume here, and then on this volume we have, some, let's say Control D, Control D. Let's say, God, I need to this whole ZBrush thing. So you've got some light strokes on here, and you want to smooth those, but you don't want to like just melt your entire volume. In this case, it's actually not doing too bad because the resolution's so high. But basically, what I'm trying to say is if you hold down Shift, start smoothing and let go of Shift, while you're smoothing, it'll retain your volumes. If you hold down Shift and don't let go of Shift, see how it kind of melts everything? So think of the Alt-Shift smooth operation as if it's kind of pushing polygons across the surface, but allowing you to maintain your volumes. And all again is that's holding down Shift, start smoothing, and let go of Shift. Now, if you want that, if you don't want to have to do that, you can also go in here to your smooth brush and just choose Smooth Alt. So now whenever you choose Smooth, it'll be the alternate smooth, and now you don't have to let go of Shift. You can just go through here and it'll respect your volumes while you smooth. But usually what I'll do is I'll just keep this on the smooth, and then I'll just hold down Shift to smooth and then let go of Shift as my pen is held down, and that'll retain your volume. It'll respect your volumes more. Also, if you're doing, let's do this. Let's say Subtool, delete all. Let's go into Load Tool. Ah, you know what? It's all downloaded on my. Oh, you know what? I do have it. I do have it. I need to find this PC. Here we go. Intro. Yes. Sample files. Let's grab my reptile armor creature. So we have, let's say we have a creature type deal, and we're going through here, and we want to, again, we want to smooth this. I have smooth, way to smooth most of that. So I'm smoothing stronger, and I'm going through here, and I'm smoothing stuff, and it's just melting my peaks and stuff like this. So you can go through here, hold down Shift to smooth, and then let go of Shift, and it'll maintain your peaks a little bit better as you smooth. Now this is still a little too strong. Another thing to consider is when you go into your smooth brush, let's go into our brushes, tap S to narrow down to our smooth brush. There is a smooth peaks and smooth valleys. So when you're doing creature stuff, usually like I kind of like to keep my crevices intact, and then I just kind of want to smooth the outer surfaces. So in this case, I'll take my smooth, hold down Shift, take my Z intensity down, and then I'll hold down Shift and let go of Shift, and then I'll just kind of, this will smooth the top surface and get rid of like those top surface brush strokes, but keep my crevices intact and maintain my volumes all at once, you know. So again, that might be useful to you maybe, but that's kind of it's a little nuancy, you know. Perpetual. That's that I don't know. I don't work for Maxon. I'm just a enthusiastic young man about ZBrush, so that's a question for them. I don't have any insight to that. I'm sorry. Cool. What is the best time to UV unwrap? Just after blocking phase or after sculpting or retopologizing? For me, when you're blocking something out and you're not going to be stressing the geometry or moving it that much, then yeah, UVing there and then is fine. And honestly, like when it's a very simple piece of geo, especially when you're doing hard surface stuff, getting those nice, clean, straight UVs early isn't a bad thing. And then you just go and continue modeling and putting in your control loops and stuff, and they just kind of fall into place in your simple UVs. For organic stuff, I tend to wait until, like exactly like you said, I'll sculpt, retopologize, project so that my verts are right where they need to be for baking, and then I'll UV, just so that when I go to finally do my UVs, I don't have to worry about any weird skewing or stretching or any artifacting. It's kind of just a safer way to go, basically, if that makes sense. Okay, so did we Dynamesh this, or we just Boolean it? Oh yeah. Yeah, there's our U-mesh. So we Boolean this, we Dynameshed it, we got plenty to sculpt on. Okay, we're getting there. Sorry, y'all. Let me see. So these are our working Boolean files. We don't need these anymore. We have our backup star. So we'll just say delete, delete, delete. Okay, append, U-mesh. And if you want to clean this up, if you do a lot of like file save, project saving, you can just go through here and just say delete all, delete all. This will get this out of memory too. So whenever you do a quick save, it's not trying to quick save a bunch of crap up here. It's only quick saving what you're working on. All right, let's turn this back on. Let's turn this back on. Let's turn this back on. Wait, yes, that's already selected. And then All right, and then this one we can just go through here and start smoothing. So right now we have our Dynamesh. Oh, I was going to show you this too. If you want to use the Dynamesh utility, so Z plugin, Dynamesh utility. This is where you can type in the poly count in millions. One thing you may need to do, go down here to additional options and say use auto scaler. That will allow it to scale your model up or down in order to hit that poly count. That's the only thing I can give you. But then you can just go in here and type in how many poly counts you want, turn on auto scaler, hit Dynamesh, and that will Dynamesh to the poly count that you want. Should work pretty well. Oh, gotcha. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm sure the business people have reasons. I'm not much of a business guy myself. For hard surface modeling, what real life subject or reference materials would you recommend for studying to capture details and shapes effectively? Okay, so let's go here. ZBrush. So this is all my ZBrush notes. So here's all my ZBrush iPad notes I was going through and, making sure I was covering everything I needed to cover. And I think I did an okay job. And over here, I have, well, I'll give you this too. Let's do this. Let's go to Drive. We'll go to hard surface. This one here. Share. There we go. Share. Copy link. There you go. So this is like a visual design. Oh, you know what? I'm going to actually need to open up another Miro board. Sorry. I was thinking it would be on my hard surface board, but now that I think about it, it is not. Visual communication. It's a big board. Give me a second. So in the ZBrush hard surface, right here, this designing for entertainment link, this will take you through. This is actually a really good talk on enriching, embedding in, say, Vimeo. I guess I'll just go ahead and get that link for you. While I'm here, scroll down, watch this one, designing for entertainment, copy link address here. This will give you things to think about and things to analyze and things to, you know what? I think there's another. Let me see if I can find this. It's mechanical terminology and examples. There's another thing I can send you. Yeah, okay. I'll give you this one too. Share, copy link, done. This goes over like guides to, just kind of little researchy things you can look at to be like, hey, when things are being manufactured, here's how they're manufactured in the 50s and then how they're manufactured now, and using generative design to go through and, give you strength with the least amount of materials and stuff. So if you want to message effectively to the user when this thing was built and how it was built, that's something that you could use. And also like sheet metal stuff, when you're doing like a flatbed or some sort of mechanical thing, enclosures, even for like hard drives and stuff, the stamping isn't just for prettiness, it's for stability, right? So that doesn't mean you have to be a mechanical engineer or anything and, stress test your stuff in Fusion 360. It's like basically just looking at what's going on here and just making visual decisions based on a light understanding of how things are manufactured. So did I give this one to y'all yet? Yeah, this one. So there's that one. Now back to visual communication. I can't give you this one because it's got paid material in it. But, sorry. This has got a bunch of stuff on it. But basically, if we go, here's GDC, art direction, contextual design. So this is an Alex Senechal talk that's really good. So check this one out. Awesome, thank you. I went through and basically went through the entire thing and just kind of mapped out everything he talked about and went through and redrew diagrams and re-explained things. But long story short, this is there's 3 components of visual design. There's like visual design is basically just like, hey, are things aesthetically pleasing? Is there weight, balance, proportion, dynamic? relationships between dynamic shapes and relationships between things so that things feel and look good and your eye travels across the surface effectively while you're designing whatever the hell you're designing. That's what this is. Over here in thematic design, this is like what you want to message to your user. What story are you trying to tell? What archetypes are they fulfilling? You know, is he a king? Is he a rogue? Is he, you know, whatever you're trying to design, what you want your audience to feel when they see your design. That's like the thematic. And then contextual is like operational, and in game design it's also like giving context to the user. So that's where the designing for entertainment kind of comes in for a little bit of it. So basically, you know, and that's what that video I just sent you. So while you're going through here, this is the reason they chose the shapes they did in order to evoke a response from you. And then here's bad examples of bad design, which are also useful, you know, even when you're doing art direction stuff, which, you know, here's a couple art direction resources. You know, you don't want to just say, here's what it is. You also want to say, here's what it isn't. So that gives you a little bit of a tighter lane, because, you know, as soon as you say, here's what something is, the person who's going to be doing it is going to want to test those edges and see how far they can push. So that's why you put in, here's what it isn't, to kind of, again, just keep that lane a little bit narrower, a little bit more on target. Long story short, go through here and there should be some good stuff to kind of just read through and think about while you're doing hard surface design. And that will allow you not just to, it basically, like you're saying, how do I study and capture the details and shapes? It's really, when you're looking at something, a reference, you can be mindful of what's effective for it visually, what's effective for it contextually and thematically, what story it's trying to tell, how it was manufactured, why it was manufactured that way, what materials they were using to build it, so that when you add your details, it's the right details to make sure that it's like, hey, if you're making something out of sheet metal, that's not going to look the same as if it's made out of rubber, right? And also, where you put those details, you're going to want to put them in a place where it's visually appealing, you know? So it's, you know, you're doing your grouping and your dynamic shapes and your relationships so that, you know, once you're all done, it's very, it's kind of a mix between, here's the mind mapping manufacturing process, and then like, if you can marry that with something like Cynic's, and not to say he doesn't have awesome design too, but basically if you can marry that with something that's like pure aesthetics, like this stuff, where you're just going through and just making shapes, this, if you can have that mind mapping and the manufacturing and the storytelling and that stuff just kind of sitting in your back seat, just kind of percolating in the back of your head while you're doing aesthetic tests, and you can kind of marry those two, that's where things are really cooking. So this is where you can go through and do, you know, pure aesthetic studies, but you're also thinking about like, actually this aesthetic is a little more 1950s, 1940s truck design, and this is what the headlights look like back then because the manufacturing process was this, and this is how, you know, design and manufacturing and all of that stuff kind of blends together into something that's really, really cohesive and cool, you know, and tells the story that you want to visually. Anyway, that's a long answer, but there's some links for you. Now, we got our Michael Pavlovich star, Michael Sparkle. So we have our Dynamesh here, and this is where we do technically have polygroups. We can use those to our advantage. I'm kind of tempted to try a couple things too. I'm gonna hit Control W to make this all one polygroup, because what happens when you use just deformation polish, it kind of gives you a little lip. That's actually kind of nice sometimes when you're working on, like, say, hard surface stuff. It's kind of nice to get a little highlighty lip. So let me show you what that looks like. So deformation polish, we just crank that to the right. See how it kind of bubbles out? You know, it kind of gives it a nice little seat to sit in. It kind of catches that highlight. I'm not sure I like that for this particular instance. So what I did was hit Control W to make this all one polygroup, and then I'm going to do polish by features, and that just gives me a little bit, it kind of gives me a little bit of a highlight, but it's not quite as pronounced as the polish. Now we could also undo that and just go down here to smooth, and I think that won't give us any. That will just kind of relax those polygons along their border, and that might even be Maybe a little better, smooth, polished by features. Maybe a tiny bit of polish by feature. So now it looks like those letters are kind of sitting in there. So if we were going to go, render this in Redshift, if you wanted to, we do have... I'm terrified to render in Redshift on this laptop because it does not have a nice GPU. It's got like a 1080 mobile in it. But if you want to know more about Redshift rendering, ZBrush, what's new for ZBrush 2025? Check that out. Here. No problem. Sculpt. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff to read in there, but I think there's some handy little... honestly, there's much better people than me talking about that stuff. And now that I'm looking at the highlights here, these are kind of cut in a little bit. Let me see if I can do that real quick before we have to leave. Let's go to solo mode here. We'll do Shift D. I'm trying to think. Because basically, I don't need, yeah. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to say inset polygroup, inset, hover over a face, inset polygroup all legacy. We're going to pull in a little bit, and then we're going to go through here and we're going to collapse this poly loop back, I think, just to kind of give it that little corner right there. I guess I can show you, yeah, that little beep right there. I think that'll be better. All right, we got our star. We know how to Boolean. We know how to do it all. So now, I guess we can work on our goopy part, right? I'll say Shift Z. Oh, we lost that. That's okay. We need to bring in another reference too. So let's go. Oh, you know what? Let me load up my face. Let me see if I have that somewhere. Let me see everything. Skin pants. Damn, I don't know where it is. I do have scan models of myself. You know what it would be? It would be along with... God, what would I look for? We scanned in flower. Scan projects. Yes. Okay, I found it. Scan projects, flower, maquette, shoe, controller. Ah, oh, damn. Maybe it didn't. Well, shoot. I thought I had a version. I do have myself scanned in. I got actually a couple different files of me scanned in. But you know what? We'll just use a... Let's just grab it. Let me see if I can set this up correctly. I can shoot over a character creator face and just kind of have it sitting here, and that'll be what I animate with. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and load up some reference. Texture import. We have already done our star, so now we're going to do our goopy part. Let's say phase 4. Nope. Let's say reference. The substance. Start on the very bottom here. I'll bring this one in. Texture, add it here. So let's go ahead and match this here. So our star kind of sits right there in the back. And like I said, we can bring over a character creator face. Honestly, I don't even need to. Just we can put a face in there real quick. So movie timeline show, store that there, and then we can go ahead and recreate this real quick, I think. And character creator, we can just go ahead and shut that down. We don't need it. Okay, so we need a generic head. I could go in here to comma key and tool and there's like the demo head in here, and there's also some underneath project. However, I know if I load up a Z project right now, it's gonna get rid of everything I'm working on. So if I want to say, you know what, let's bring in that female body right here and we'll steal her head. So I'm gonna go out of edit mode. Nope, stay in edit mode. Close my lightbox. Go in here to load tools from project. Go to Maxon ZBrush 2025, Z projects, female, and that'll allow you to bring in a project without, blowing away what you're working on. So we have a kind of a neutral face here. So what I'm going to do is let's go down here to geometry, subdivision level 1. Let's hold down Control Shift. Select lasso has an easy way to kind of isolate poly loops if you ever need to. We'll say auto groups. We're going to say geometry delete higher. We're going to say geometry modify topology delete hidden. Control Shift tap, delete hidden. And just for the hell of it, we'll hover over an edge with our Z modeler brush, close convex hole, boop, put a little thing in here. If we want to, we could also just put a little inset control loop here. There we go. Now we can append this. We can make a brush out of it. I guess we'll just append it. So we'll go back here. We'll say append. Bing. And right now our head is very big and up there. So I'm going to take this head and we're going to go to deformation, unify. That'll stick it down here. And now we're going to unmesh mesh center, turn off X symmetry. There we go. And now Shift Z, we'll put this back. And let's hit Z and we'll take this down a little bit so I can see a little bit better. And we'll kind of push this into place, somewhere about hereabouts. Cool. And now so she's sitting on some goop. So we'll put her about there. Now, let's make the rest of this. Let's turn everything off except for we'll append a, come on, we'll append a plane, I think. Yeah. Okay, so we got a plane appended. If you ever have holes in your, you see how there's like the little, if you're doing levels on your reference and you want to get rid of this, make sure you, what they call it? Not cap, clamp. You clamp the lower level so nothing ever goes to pure black. It just goes to very, very, very dark gray. But you can also go in here to intensity and just crank that to the right, and that'll kind of clamp it for you. So now your super black pixels that are transparent will actually go to just a dark gray so they don't disappear. So here we'll move this into place, and we have our plane sitting back here. So a couple different ways we could do this. Since we have a plane on here, we'd actually go in here. Here's a cool thing, maybe. Let's go into solo mode. If we have just BI brush insert IMM primitives, hit M on your keyboard. We'll just grab that simple polysphere, change your stroke to like dot stroke, and you can just literally just paint with those dots. So basically on this, you can just kind of paint this goopiness and then Dynamesh the result, right? That's one way you could go about it. Another way is to ZSketch, or I mean, we don't have to match this exactly. It's pretty self-explanatory, right? But let's say you did need to for art direction or some reason. You could go through here. Let's turn smooth off. Let's divide up. And just so we don't have to get yelled at, I'm going to say delete lower so there's no subdivision history. So now you can go through here and you can just literally mask here. So if you quickly go through here and just kind of mask this result here, like so. If you want to fill in this middle section here, it should be pretty easy to go down here. You can just save a hotkey for this too. Masking, region, auto region. Didn't quite work. Let's do analyze region. Give it a little hint, fill region. There we go. So now we have this, and then I always like to, you know me, I like to duplicate this off. Control W. So we have a polygroup here, Control Shift tap. Let's go, because remember, Control Shift tapping on an edge will give us an edge ring. Let's go back to select rectangle, which doesn't do that. And then we'll say delete hidden. We'll do a polish by feature open circle, ZRemesh half, depth size down to 0. And now we can just, I mean, not that you would have to ZRemesh this, but like you could just Dynamesh it or whatever. But now we have, you know, a pretty nice shape. We can go through here and move this around. And then we got to give this thickness, because right now it's just a flat plane, right? So just Shift Z, go through here with your, I don't know, Z modeler brush or whatever. You could do an extraction too if you wanted to. Extrude, polygroup all, yoink. And then if we want nice even geometry, we'll give it a little bit of an insert, multiple edge loops, keep polygroup. And it was kind of, and you know what? We won't do a polish by feature. We'll just do a polish, deformation polish, just kind of round that off. And now we've got a nice little base. I'm probably going to keep that around. But like I said, if you want to kind of go in there and kind of do a sculpt, kind of do a Z-sphere, let's go ahead and say insert Z-sphere. Not that you would ever need this many options, but why not? We're going to just have a Z-sphere sitting in our scene, and now we're going to go down here to ZSketch, go in here to Edit Sketch. Let's go ahead and turn that head off here. Shift Z, move this back into place, and now you should be able to, Edit Sketch. What am I missing? Edit Sketch, ZSketch. You know what? Let's turn that head back on. What am I missing here? Oh. Hit Q. Don't be in move. You got to be in... so this is actually interesting. So while I'm drawing, any subtools I have visible, you can go in here and like, you know, just go through and like sketch out goopy, and then go in here and sketch out goopy, and it's just going to stick. So if you're doing things like roots, like on a tree, and you want it to like go up a surface and down a surface, this is a great way to do it. Not a bad way to do this either. Let's have this reference kind of sitting up here. So if you did want, you know, this to kind of trail off here, we can make a unified skin, you know, so you can just kind of go through here and just kind of brush in Z spheres here to kind of goop your way to success here. Yeah, so like all along here, and then this neck, if we wanted to, we could say, let's hold down Control, go in here to Mask Lasso, and we'll Control Tab to invert that, and then we'll kind of just rotate this back like so. And then we'll go back to our Z-sphere here. We still have ZSketch turned on. And now, so let's bring our reference back. So while we're doing this sculpting, and we, you know, we can kind of go through here and just kind of match, like go through here and just kind of. And if we want to delete, we can just hold down Alt and brush away, and then go back here. So we're going to kind of fill this in really quickly, like so. And you can also hold down Shift to smooth, and that'll give you some really nice creaturey effects too. It'll be like sinewy muscle. You can use your advantage. And like I said, we're going to have a unified skin after we're done with all this. There we go. And then we'll Shift to smooth this out. And along the side here, we'll kind of push this up and in. Yeah, I think this will work fine. And then up the face here. Nice. Now, like I said, you could take the extruded plane we did and turn it into Dynamesh, and use snake hook and have it follow the mesh, or, you know, just use your move brushes and stuff. It should be fine. But also, we can do this, and then once we're ready, once we think we got it, we can go down here to where ZSketch, and go here to Unified Skin. Let's hit Preview. Looks pretty good. Let's crank our resolution up just a little bit. Yeah, capture some of that goopiness in there. Yeah, I think that'll work. So let's, if we like this, we can say Make Unified Skin. That's going to spit it out here in your palette. So that's the sculptable polygon version of our mesh. So we need to make sure we append that to our scene. This is just our Z-sphere with our Z-sketch sitting in here. So we can just go ahead and delete that out of our scene. This one, I guess we don't really need that anymore, so we just delete that out of our scene. And now we've got this, and this is literally just a Dynamesh mesh, I believe. It might even have Dynamesh on. Yeah, so at this point, if you want to drop that down a little bit, looking at, it has your polygroups on here. If those are useful to you, I don't think they're too useful in this case, so we'll go ahead and just get rid of this. And then now we just go through here, and we just kind of match our, we still have smooth peaks. So let's go back in here to smooth, And then I like to do a little bit of weighted smooth mode, smooth stronger, and then drop that Z intensity down if I need to. You can also turn off that show. So now we're going through here, and we just need to do a little bit of organic sculpting. So what are some good organic sculpting tips? Clay buildup. If we are going to be sculpting on something that's kind of thin, I want to make sure that I'm not doing something like this and pulling through. So what I have is a hotkey, Alt F, to turn on backface masking. I also have it sitting in here in my interface, so I can always look over really quickly for any brush and see if I have it on or off or not. That's under auto masking backface. So you'll need to turn that on for any brush that you want. For example, clay buildup or clay brush. I can just do, standard brush, do my hotkey for standard brush, and then hit Alt F to turn that on. So any of the brushes that I'm going to be using for this session, I can just turn that on. Now, I usually have, when I'm using, I guess clay buildup is fine. Clay tubes is also a good one. So you know what? We have our recently used here. We don't need Z plugin anymore. So clay tubes, clay buildup. Although if I am using clay tubes and I'm on a thin mesh, I want to make sure backface masking is turned on. So that's good for just kind of general volumes. And then like we were talking about, if you hold down Shift and let go of Shift, that'll smooth and maintain your volumes a little better. And then also peaks and valleys, smooth peaks might also come in handy once we get into like detailing and stuff. So anyway, oh, here's another good one. Clay, oh wait, not C, BBL, Brazilian butt lift brush. This is the blob brush. This works pretty good if you turn on Sculptris Pro. It'll give you a nice blobby kind of goopy look. So you can use this to your advantage if you're doing like, blobby creaturey stuff, kind of like what we're doing now. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of artifacting in here. So, and actually while we're Dynameshing, I'm going to raise the resolution up just a little bit here. And there we go. Will the stream be available for later? Yes, that's a good question. So eventually I will post this, YouTube. I'm going to post this on my channel. If you go down here, you're going to see live stream full episodes, so you can get it here. But right now, I'm streaming on Maxon's channel, which is right here. If you go to live, there I am. So here is me and everyone else that's streams for them. So a whole bunch of awesome people in here making really awesome stuff. So definitely check all of them out. But yes, if you want just my stuff, because this is kind of unorganized, like I said, if you just want just my stuff, my channel live stream full episodes will all be here, sitting in here. In fact, if you go to my playlists, look for the big blue genie here. This might be a little easier to navigate, and you can go back through years of SpongeBob stuff, Log, Ren and Stimpy, Fallout, Warhammer, Avatar, Mario, who's this guy? Salacious B. Crumb, Ninja Turtles. So all the stuff that I've worked on. Holy moly. This is too much streaming, yo. I think there's even, yeah, it keeps going. Oof. Mamma mia. Pickle Rick. Anyway, here's that one for you if you want it. There you go. Cool. What is the name again? My name is Michael Pavlovich. This is from the movie The Substance, if you haven't seen it. Sorry, spoiler alert. I guess I should not be showing this to you if you haven't seen it. Sorry about that, but I don't know. So again, so now we're going through here. We're doing our clay buildup to kind of get our volumes and our forms, and we're using the clay blob, or we're using just, clay buildup's pretty good. And then once I get, my volumes in shape, one thing I like to do, so you have your Dam standard, that's built in, Damien standard brush. You can go through here and you can kind of sketch out like, okay, I want something to kind of wrap around here and kind of goop over in this direction. So you can kind of go through and give yourself a little sketch, and then go to your clay buildup or your clay tubes and kind of refine that. So you can go, okay, this is going to snake over and under and kind of build those relationships here. And then again, shift to smooth and let go of shift if you want to maintain your volumes. Another really good one, here's the thing, when you're sculpting and you're doing organic stuff, once you get to a certain point, what I like to do is go ahead and control tap. Actually, what I like to do is go in here to edit, delete older undo history, because I'll usually have like 10,000 undos in here. I'm going to control tap that point in history to store these verts. I'm going to go in here to ZRemesher. Let's not do half, but let's do a depth size down pretty low because I want pretty even quads. Target polygon count of 5,000 is fine. And I'm going to ZRemesher this result. This is after you've done your volumes and you're not going to be changing the geometry that much. You're just going in and doing pure detailing. Do this step. Let it go, let it go. It's kind of a weird shape for it to figure out, I guess. So basically, you're going to ZRemesher this down to, there we go, something that's nice and predictable geometry, nice to sculpt on, right? It's not Dynamesh anymore, but now we lost all our detail. Not a big deal. We stored those points in history previously. So now all I do is hit Control D or go in here and hit Divide and do a project history. That's underneath your subtool project history. So now Control D, project history, Control D, project history. So not only do you have your details back, you now have subdivision history. Now this will come in handy if you want to do stuff like this. If you do, you know what, you could do this. You could go into your pinch brush, or there you go. Go into your pinch brush, go into brush elasticity, change your simulation iterations up to 100. And now if we drop down to like subdivision level 3 maybe, you can go through here and as you're pinching, it'll actually do a little bit of cloth. So that way you can go through here and kind of, again, that goopy kind of layered skin, you could do that. You could also go in here to BC brush cloth. What's a good one? Cloth hook. If you use this one, it's just going to pull your mesh all around. However, if you mix that with geometry, is it geometry or is it just tool? Where's my... It's actually been a while since I've used this. Thick skin. Where is... There it is. Geometry, or sorry, tool, thick skin. If you turn this on, and you can go in here and change your thickness, what that does is kind of limit the effect your brush will have. So if you just use like your clay buildup brush, you'll just brush and brush and brush, and then it'll just stop at whatever your thick skin distance is. So you can brush, and then eventually it'll cap out, right? However, if you take that thick skin down a little bit, and you do like a BC brush cloth hook, instead of just yanking your geometry around, it'll actually kind of push the geometry across the surface. So it's going to feel like your wrinkles are you can kind of just, and actually this one's a little bit touchy. Let's do brush cloth nudge with thick skin. That way you can kind of push your geometry, and while you're pushing your geometry, it'll deform in a wrinkly way, in like a cloth wrinkles type way. And that'll be useful sometimes for like wrinkly skin, etc. And then you can go back to sculpting and just kind of smooth this out and use your clay buildup or whatever to kind of go through here and, you know, oh, turn off thick skin. There we go. Dam standard 02 is also a good one. So if we go in here to subdivision level 4, smooth this out. This is a really good one to kind of go through here and, you know, as things are twisting and turning, you can kind of indicate like there's a squash and stretch. So it'll just kind of stretch on this side and maybe squash a little bit on this side. You can use Dam standard 02. And then again, we're just going to hold down shift, turn that Z intensity way down. So when you go in here and smooth, it's not going to destroy our details. So yeah, Dam standard 02 is a good one to go through here. And just kind of, let's drop that Z intensity down a little bit. Go through here and you can use this to kind of, again, dial in some of that gross detail and then hop back in here with your clay tubes, your clay buildup. And in fact, one thing you can do is go in here to stroke modifiers, take your roll distance up to 5 so it smooths your stroke out. You don't have to turn roll on, just roll distance will do the trick. And then drop the Z intensity way down. And you can use this to kind of feather in it's a little more nuance in your shapes here. And then again, like we were talking about earlier, get rid of your brush strokes. Just drop your Z intensity down, hold down Shift, let go of Shift, and or go into smooth and then change it to smooth peaks, etc. And then again, you can follow back up. Now, if I follow back up with my pinch brush with elasticity turned on, it's not going to work because I'm over my density. However, I can Control Shift drag over this little piece, and there we go. Now we can use our pinch with elasticity to kind of wrinkle this up using our claw simulation. Also, another good one is our brush. This will be a good one too. Here's a good resource. Complete series. Check out the ZBrush Masters playlist. So if you want to see people who are really good at ZBrush, you can go and watch this. And then I think in the the Magdalena or the Geo video, there is a BG. I don't have it loaded on my laptop. There's a Geo brush. It's kind of similar to the damn standard O2 brush, but it's a really nice brush to kind of maintain your forms. So you can look that up. But anyway, we're running up on time. How did you do this mesh around the face? I started ZBrush 2 weeks and doing a lot of characters. Did you draw in 2D and put it in 3D? Kind of. So on this very video, go back and you'll see two different methods where you kind of, I think 3 different methods. We drew, you could also use IMM. So we kind of just scattered our brush, but you can also do BC brush curve. Curve flat will work, but let's just do curve tube. So if we have this plane selected and we want to draw a tube on it and have it stick, you want to make sure your picker, I think it should be set up correctly, but just in case, orientation continuous Z. So now when we're on our thing, we could use an IMM brush to kind of do this, but we actually use ZSketching. So rewind this video and you'll see us creating the little mesh around the head. So now that we have this, we can get rid of this plane. We can bring our star back here, and there we go. Here is our Elizabeth Sparkle little creation here. GeoBrush, yes, thank you. GIO, not GEO for everybody here listening, but GIO brush. Cool. Excellent. Perfect. Thanks, everybody. Yes, Pablo Munoz made that brush. So he's got a brush set that you can go and download that. Cool. Thanks, everybody. Have a nice one. I'm going to go ahead. We'll save as a Z tool here in my recording. And so, like I said, we've already done Body Horror Phase 2. Here's Phase 4. We didn't do the Elizabeth Sue. Sorry about that. But this will be here. And again, if you want to see the other, here's my live stream. Like I already sent out the live stream episode, the body horror here. And in fact, ArtStation might be a little bit easier to, whenever I do a project, I just kind of stick everything for that project in there. So if you want to see like the making of this Garbage Pail Kid, here's a couple of live streams that cover the making of this. Same thing for this one here. Here's a couple quick videos on kind of an overview, and then here's another overview, and then here's the live stream. So check out any of these. If any of these projects look interesting, check them out. There's lots of